Welcome back to another episode of Agile Ideas, the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, Amanda Bronkhorst. Amanda's professional background began in the giddy world of TV commercial production, where as a producer, she worked with many big brand clients. Her successful career in the industry spanned 20 years and found her shooting in film locations around the globe. What was intended as a brief hiatus to start a family transpired to be a change of career in an unexpected way. Whilst on her maternity leave, media reporting on the urgency of the climate crisis was ramping up. Driven by apprehension for what the future might hold for her young daughter, Amanda was compelled to take action. And so, Just One Tree was born, a non-profit initiative removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through global reforestation. The vision was to create a platform which enables everyone to make a difference in the fight against climate change. Founded on this principle, Just One Tree allows people to become part of the solution. With just £1 planting one tree, it encourages large-scale minimal participation and simplifies the process for everyone to get involved. When not shackled to a desk running the endless administrative duties of a not-for-profit company, you can find her riding her horse or dreaming of carving down snowy mountains and driving in the oceans. Welcome, Amanda, to the Agile Ideas podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Very welcome. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. I'm really keen to know a little bit more about your background. We've just gone through a bit about your bio, but I'd love to hear in your own words a little bit about yourself.
So I basically, I guess started my career as a TV producer filming commercials. I was in that industry for about 20 years and I still very much love it. It was a very fun industry to work in, at filming on shoots and working with crews and getting to travel around different countries around the world to film in. I really, really enjoyed that. And also kind of on a personal level, I've got a just turned 4-year-old, and I guess outside of that, I'm kind of a bit of a have to be outdoors, so kind of really kind of into my adventure sports. Snowboarding is a big one, scuba diving, but obviously I've got a 4-year-old, so I don't get a chance to do that so much. And also, I guess, horse riding, so I get to be outside in nature every single day, something I need normally in the mornings to kickstart me and get that fresh air and clarity before you start your day. So
absolutely,
really, really enjoy. So
sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to get outside in that sort of fresh air and nature, and it really does focus your thoughts because it's in a bizarre way, it's a little bit like meditation that you're concentrating on one thing, like you're concentrating on every footfall, horse, and then you're sort of really focused. Then when you come out and come back into the world, your brain's just calmer, and it's really lovely. It's a great way to start the day.
You've probably got maybe more of a desire to be outdoors these days, because I assume you were probably working from home a lot during this pandemic. So I think outside time probably is even more precious than maybe it usually is even.
Yeah, I was so thankful that, to have Milo, the horse, because I could actually get out, and my poor other half and daughter, who weren't allowed at the stables, because obviously social distancing and stuff, I felt really bad leaving them behind and then going to the stables every day and going for a nice ride around the fields. But it was really welcome. And I mean, I work from home anyway because, again, similar sort of thing, trying to kind of just lessen the carbon footprint. So I was working from home, running Just One Tree anyway. So that hasn't changed. In fact, life kind of got a little bit easier because I had daddy daycare to look after the little one rather than having to run her around.
So you've travelled a lot over the time of your career as a producer. What would you say is your favourite country that you've travelled to?
In terms of work, I think the favourite one, it sounds silly, but was going to Chamonix, which is in the French Alps, as in the favourite job at the top of my head, because it was sort of the snowboarding one with sort of the stuntman from James Bond, and
wow,
being pulled up to the location on the back, off of a rope on the back of a skidoo on your snowboards. So that was probably the most fun. But I filmed sort of in different places like France and Prague and South Africa, lots of different places. But holiday destination, because you're still working, and maybe Rome. Rome was good. Italy was a good one because of the weather.
Yeah.
But you're often in hotels to locations, sets, and so you're still sort of working. But
amazing. And so, for those that heard the bio, you've gone from working a career as a producer to setting up your first business and a not-for-profit, Just One Tree. Very, very exciting and such an agile idea. So tell us a little bit more about Just One Tree. What is it? What are you doing? And tell us about it.
Okay, so Just One Tree. Well, we basically remove. It's a non-profit initiative removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through global reforestation. So the idea is we make it simple to plant trees. And it kind of came along by accident. It was more sort of that I was on an extended maternity leave with my daughter, because with both of us having long hours in the film industry, we wanted one parent to be around as she grew up. And then I happened to hear how short our window is to kind of stop these horrible effects and getting us past these tipping points, and that will kind of end human civilization as we know it. And as a parent, I panicked and was like, the government are dragging their heels, what's going on? I feel like I need to do something. So when I discovered how cheap it was to plant a tree, I was like, well, actually, if every parent knew how cheap it was, they'd probably plant a tree for each of their children at £1. It's so cheap. And so I started Googling, how many people are there how many kids are there? Sorry, very early in the morning here. How many kids are there in the UK in education? And there's 10 million. And I just thought, well, scientists are saying you need 1 trillion trees to get us out of this mess. It's the best solution. Well, 10 million trees, if everyone planted just one tree for each of their children per year, we get quite close to that. And well, how many people are there in the UK? Well, there's 66 million. Well, okay, hang on. So I sort of had this idea, and I realized how actually it could be really integrated into businesses like estate agents. What if an estate agent planted a tree for every sale they did? I don't know how many they do, but maybe say they do 20 a year as a conservative amount. But multiply that by all the estate agents in London or all the estate agents in England, and suddenly that's a lot of trees just for just £1, which I'm sure they could do out of their profits. Yes. So, and I kept going around going, well, what about hairdressers? What happens if that hairdressing chain put 10 pence onto every haircut, and worked out that one chain would, my local one, would sort of plant 18,000 trees a year, just for increasing the amount by 10 pence, which when you're paying an amount to get your hair done, which I haven't done in a while because of lockdown, but actually it really quickly adds up. So and once I had that idea, I couldn't not do anything about it. The plan was always for me to go back to production, but all these newspaper articles were coming in about what a state we're in, and it's really worrying, and there's not going to be any Arctic left and all this sort of stuff. And I just was like, I can't lie here or sit here and not scream about, hang on, we can do something about it. So I just sort of set it up, and I was hoping that maybe, I've got a year till Senna starts school. If I plant 900 trees and that's where it ends, then there's 900 trees out there, more than there would have been if I hadn't started. So I did it, but it was all about enabling everybody, everybody, my neighbours, people, the kids, parents at schools, or everyone to actually be able to do something about it rather than worry about it and talk about it or march about it. And I'm not saying we don't need all that, but I'm just saying that we can actually, this is how to actually do it. So yeah, kind of
amazing. That's amazing. I want to bring our listeners' attention to a quote that you shared with me from Howard Zinn, which I'm going to read verbatim. It says, "We don't have to engage in grand heroic acts to participate in the process of change. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world." And it seems very evident that what you're trying to do is help to make such a global difference. With your initiative now actually spreading further than what you actually anticipated, in less than a year, you've planted over 400,000 trees.
It's actually grown. I've just sort of, because we sort of plant monthly with some reforestation companies and quarterly with another one, and we've just done the calculations. And although I haven't actually paid for them yet, exchange rates, but we're looking, this should be happening the next week or so, but we're looking closer just somewhere between 700,000 and 750,000 trees.
Wow, so, amazing! And that's been less than 12 months.
Yeah, it'll be 12 months at the end of June. So.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible. That deserves a big round of applause. That's amazing. It's really, really positive.
Thank you. And then the reason that we can do that, so although it's £1 plants one tree, what we actually do is we plant more than one tree per pound. So we guarantee that at least one tree will be planted, because prices vary from country to country. But then what we do is because it's a non-profit, we pull the extra, the difference, and we plant more trees with that difference. So I've raised about £100,000. Is how much we've actually raised, but with that we've managed to plant that amount of trees. So even though it sounds like, oh, I've planted £750,000 trees, I haven't raised £750,000. It's like a lot less than that, but what it goes to show is that that money can go so much further. That it's about kind of, sort of making it sort of a quantifiable amount that people can donate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just looking at my notes, I know that where you're actually planting at the moment, or the main areas, there are poverty-stricken areas. Why is it an important area of focus for you to initially focus your attention on those areas from an environmental perspective?
Okay, so there's quite a few points to that. The first one is obviously the social impact, and a lot of deforestation happens through families that are really struggling to make ends meet. So what they do is they rely on the forest by chopping it down and selling it on the side of the road for charcoal to make a quick buck. But it means that it's a quick solution, but causes a long-term problem of deforestation. Or there's sort of these things called slash and burn agriculture, where they're sort of chopping down the trees they're planting on the fields. It loses the nutrients in the soil. They move to in a couple of years, and they move to the next plot, and they chop, and it's kind of rinse and repeat. So in this way, what we're doing is we're actually going in and through the reforestation partners, they're going in and helping to lift these people out of extreme poverty by giving them training, agriculture education, and provision of sustainable income through planting and maintaining the trees. So what it's doing is preventing further deforestation, and as well as reversing the effects as well. So, so I think for me, and I'm sure for lots of the listeners, one of the questions is, well, actually, planting trees is one thing, but you've got to stop the cutting down of the trees in the first place. And absolutely, that is paramount. And it happens on all different levels, from like governments all the way down. But sort of a lot of it actually does happen like on the ground in the local communities. So going in and reversing that is quite a priority, I think. And also, you lift people out of poverty, you lift their environment. We know, again, through lockdown, we know how we feel kind of, when you're locked in your house, where's the one place you want to be? You want to be around nature. That's your escape. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is obviously financially, we can plant a lot more trees in terms of how far the pound goes. And if you think of the world as a bit of a bubble, it doesn't matter where you plant those trees, they're still going to have an effect on climate change. So it's better for me to say plant 10 trees in Kenya rather than a 1 tree or 4 trees in Australia, because actually that's going to have a bigger effect. There's scientific evidence to say that it's better to plant trees closer to the equator, because they grow quicker and they're better for climate change, because trees actually trap in heat. So you want to plant closer to the equator rather than up in sort of the northern hemisphere. Again, not saying we don't need trees up here, but I'm sort of, in my hurry to do the best I can, that's the kind of the target. And then finally, one of the things we do is we plant a lot of mangroves, which aren't as romantic as the rainforest, but they actually sequester up to 4 times more carbon per hectare. So they're huge carbon sinks. And I have a bit of a passion for the oceans as well. So mangroves also help with the health and preservation of like aquatic ecosystems. So they have like a symbiotic relationship with coral reefs. The two of them need each other to sustain each other. So planting a lot of mangroves helps that. And also, surprisingly, a lot of fish are born within the roots of mangroves. Like 3/4 of tropical species are born within them. So for me, it tackles 2 really key areas: the oceans and also the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. So that's another reason why. So yeah, there's quite a few ones. I could keep going, but there's lots of reasons why.
There is, and it's like really interesting. I didn't know that about the aquatic life, and actually finding that out, that's actually something I wasn't actually aware of. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really fascinating. And kind of before going into just one tree, I mean, you always think of mangroves and sort of swamps and, well, like, oh, mangroves, really? We'll hear about the tropical rainforests and we should be planting them there. But actually, yeah, I've learned so much about mangroves, and now I'm like, oh wow, actually, these are actually incredible trees.
Yeah.
So yeah, fall in love with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned you have been doing work with reforestation partners. Obviously, for the volume that you're working with, you must have some amazing partners in those regions. And how did you actually go through the process of finding the relevant people or organisations actually to work with and to help you on your mission?
So I did a lot of research into lots of companies, and I found that I actually wanted to, because something I hadn't done before. I didn't want to just go into a project in, I don't know, sort of Ghana or somewhere and just find people and hope that that's where that they're legitimate. I basically didn't want to fund the militia by accident. So
Yes.
I wanted to find really well-established, well-respected companies with a big infrastructure already in place, that are audited, that I did a lot of due diligence, and kind of they had to meet a few things, not a few, quite a lot of criteria, like the social impact, the governance, what else? The amount of like how the trees are maintained to maturity, because there's it's all good planting a load of seeds or trees, but you've got to look after them, make sure they actually grow. And the survival rate of the trees was really important, that native species are all planted. So I've now got 3, although we've got to announce a new one, so it's not yet on the website, but we've now got 3 reforestation partners, and I'm really happy. They each bring something different, but I kind of I'm really pleased with each of them. So
Wonderful. Awesome. That's amazing. I was really sure that you weren't going out and planting these all by yourself.
yeah.
It's amazing. And tell me a little bit more about the educational aspect. So not only are you working with poverty-stricken areas and helping to from an educational perspective there, but actually doing some work with schools and actually working with schools to educate the students on environmental matters such as this. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so part of Just One Tree that I wanted to set up was kind of, sort of based kind of in our own communities, and actually sort of wanting to not educate, because obviously it's kind of how it's out there, but kind of to help sort of bring environmental education into the classrooms, sort of, and bring more awareness and sort of how to mitigate climate change. And you've obviously got to do it in quite a careful, sort of positive way, because you don't want to upset children. But that was one of the things I always wanted to do, is kind of try and help bring environmental awareness into or education into the classrooms. And so I sort of had this idea quite early on, when we just set up, well, I just set up Just One Tree, about maybe what we could do, because all the school strikes were going on. I assume you had them there as well, since September last year.
Yes.
And I could see this whole sort of issue with headmasters or headmasters and headmistresses, that were kind of wanting to support the strikes in terms of the idea of, you know, doing something about climate change, but had this real concern that they couldn't be seen to be letting their kids out of school, condoning kids not being there for school. So there was this real sort of push and pull between parents and head teachers and kids. So I sort of had the idea that, hey, if we did a non-uniform day, which I don't know whether you guys have.
We do have those, yeah.
You bring in £1 and normally that £1 goes to charity and you get to come in your uniform. So I was like, well, why don't we do a non-uniform day for the planet, for planting trees? And actually, if we got schools up and down the country, that would raise awareness about climate change, so they could be almost not protesting, but kind of showing their concern, but through doing something positive. It would then each one would plant a tree. The head teachers could show that they're for, you know, this is really important, we support our students. And also it could then be a way of getting environmental education into the schools. So schools used it as a springboard for loads of different projects. We had schools doing like videos, so lots of creative things, so videos and assemblies where they all stood up and gave speeches on trees and climate change. And this year we've also did some homeschooling packs for the primary schools to help, again, some ideas for teachers to bring that in and to springboard off of. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to do. And actually what it was really, there was another idea that we had, was this thing called a grow your own forest challenge. So where they put a tree, like a bare tree, up on the wall, kind of out of a poster, but a big one. And each child, when they bring in their pound, they put a leaf on the, like a cut out a leaf and put it on the wall, so they see the forest grow.
Amazing.
You see how many trees that they are planting as a school. And it went really well. I was hoping for like 20 or 30 schools on our first go, and we actually had 390 schools sign up, which was incredible. 350 took part in the end. And so what we did is we did it so you could, the main date was like November 22nd, but with Christmas and everything, we just said, look, it's not about the main date, it's about any time in the year that suits you, because it's about planting trees. So we've had schools doing it throughout the year, and of course COVID-19 has kind of chopped off this last term. But yeah, we're about to launch it went so well. So yeah, we raised, so far the funds are still coming in, but they raised like £78,000, which has planted, you know, that amount of trees. But actually, because we plant more trees per pound, it's planted like hundreds of thousands of trees from it. So it's been incredible success. And wow. We just hope that we can, like, I want to now do it year on year, because actually giving back to the environment shouldn't just be a one-off act. It's something we need to integrate into our lives now. So I'm hoping, we'll see how it goes, but the next date is October 16th, 2020. And we're just hoping to see that, you know, whether the schools come back and whether we can grow it. And we're sort of, it's open to every school in every country, and, you know, whoever wants to join in would be incredible. So that's what we're aiming for. We just want to keep growing it. And because again, I don't know what charities your school support, but we have two main ones that they do here, but actually, you know, one's comic relief and one's children in need, but maybe we now need one for the planet. So
yeah, absolutely. It seems to me that through, you know, that example and then the earlier example, you're just exceeding goal after goal. You went from 9,000 trees for the first year as your goal, and you went to 900,000 or close to that. It's amazing. And then obviously with the schools, you probably weren't expecting that many, and now you've done it. So I'm no doubt that you'll meet that goal as well. And hopefully with people listening, that they can get involved and spread the message, or if they're listening and they're in the school space, the education space, I'm sure I'll tell a few people as well. So I think
that's actually a good point. The way that it actually happened is we just put a post out on Facebook, and we said to concerned parents, if you're worried about climate change but not sure what to do, you know, go into the schools and ask your schools if they can take part. So it actually all stemmed from the parents going in and saying, hey, can we do this in our school, rather than us contacting schools. It all stemmed from, and that's again going back to the whole thing of Just One Tree, of kind of getting a way of finding a platform where we can all, in fact, I kind of don't think of Just One Tree as like a company or a charity. It's actually just, we are all just one tree. It's all of us working together that actually gets the results. So
I think what you've done as well is you've got this large scale piece of work and you've made it so easy for people to donate such a simple amount of money that most of us could afford, ongoing, and then the result itself is huge. I'd love to know how people listening can understand a bit more about the simplistic side of it. So we make a donation, do we go online? Is it somewhere we log in? Like how does the process work if I wanted, or the listeners wanted to make a donation tomorrow?
Yeah, so it's very simple. Like you said, you just go on our website, which is justonetree.life. And literally the first thing that comes up, it says plant a tree. So you just click on that and it will feed you through to a different page, which then you put in your details. So you can do that. You can do single donation, just come back next year and do another one. Or you can do a recurring donation if you would rather just put an amount through. You can set up your fundraising page if you want to do a fundraiser, you're running an event or something. So that's kind of individuals. For schools, again, the non-uniform day, or again, fundraisers, it doesn't have to be a non-uniform day. It could be a cake sale, it could be anything. And then for businesses, it's about kind of coming on board and being part of our collective and sort of partnering with us. What, again, I'm trying to do is just grow a network of businesses that are sort of showing that they're for planet as well as for profit. And it's amazing how you can integrate it into any business and so that it can ebb and flow with kind of the good times and the bad times. So one thing, I was a freelancer as a producer, and although I'd sign up to a number of charities, I would worry about going further than that because I never knew, when the next job was coming. It always came, but you just don't know.
Yes.
So I wanted to create something that could mold around every business and could ebb and flow with, say, like we have a wedding company that is very busy over the summer but quiet over the winter. So it just they donate over the summer, and that's great. I wanted it to be something that everybody can contribute to. There's no matter how big or small a company they are. But lots of companies do things like they plant a tree with every product they sell, or sole traders do things. They plant a tree for every invoice raised. So you could be a builder and you finish a job and you go, well, I've done this contract, I'll plant a tree, it's only £1. So it can integrate in so many different ways.
Amazing. Yeah, you've given hairdressers and builders and sole traders and so many different ideas. Here in Australia, we do sausage sizzles. So I'm sure there could be a few of those running in schools and raising money that way to plant trees. No, that sounds amazing. I do want to touch on your background. You've gone from, being a producer, running TV commercials for a really long time and doing that really well. We kind of see those as like mini projects, if you like, with the defined start and end and a fixed budget, etc. I'd love to know how you, or if you, took that experience there and how that translates to you running this not-for-profit, which is your first business. I'd love to understand what learnings and experiences you've taken from that specifically have helped you in setting up Just One Tree.
Well, I think the budgeting side has really helped. Obviously, kind of working out sort of the financial side of it. It's very different. It's a very different way of working. In production, you say you have it's basically project managing over a short amount of time, and their problems come up every day. So what you have to do in production is you have to get everything done on the day that you're working on, and clear it off your plate, because you're clear going into the next morning for when things come your way. In running Just One Tree, and obviously production is like a 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, and then like for a couple of weeks and then it's done. Just One Tree, there's ongoing projects and there's always something. So I'm having to learn that you don't always get everything finished by the end of the day, and that's okay. But in terms of the organization skills, sort of writing your lists and your aims and the ideas and sort of crossing those things off. And the other thing that's been really good, bizarrely, which is really nice that I'm being able to use that part, that creative part, is all the sort of the social media And so we're now starting to do little videos on social media. So it's been really nice to kind of work and sort of edit things and kind of, sort of do that side, sort of choose images and things and the music and kind of almost producing my own little projects. I just don't have the director, and I was scrabbling for any volunteers that will, give up their time to do it for me. But that's been really great. But there's kind of a lot of sort of, doing some spreadsheets and kind of, sort of about the donations coming in. So that's kind of how I think it kind of overlays, but it is a very different way of working.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not easy setting up a business from scratch, let alone a not-for-profit, where I appreciate there's a lot more governance, there's a lot more rules, there's a lot more regulations, there's a lot more scrutiny, I guess, in that space, because obviously it is a not-for-profit initiative. So I think that whole process of setting up a business would be challenging in itself. Have you come across any valuable tools or any processes or any training videos or books or anything that really helped you to set up this business? I'm sure there's many, but is there any that come to mind?
Yeah, I think there's a couple that come to mind. The first, we've got this, I don't know if you've got it again in Australia, but there's a website called Reach Volunteering, and they're really good. So you can go on there and people, it's a website where they go, we're looking to volunteer. So you can go on there and sort of put a little advert out and say, I'm an environmental company, and we're looking for somebody in this sector. And through them, we sort of pulled in some advisors, because I'm a social enterprise, I think you call it over there, rather than a fully fledged charity. I'll digress slightly. The reason why is just to kind of get it off the ground quickly, because again, we've only got 10 years or 9 years now left, so I wanted to get it off the ground quickly. But so I've got sort of advisors on board, and again, sort of finding like some graphic designers and things like that, all through Reach Volunteering, which has been really great. And then the other one is Salesforce. I don't know if you have Salesforce in Australia, but they gifted us like 10 free licenses for a non-profit pack, and they're helping set that up, which I think is going to be so helpful. So it's a bit of a beast to get your head around, but they are. What's really nice is as it is a beast, they've actually turned around and got that you're running a charity on your own. We let us help you. So they've volunteered their time to help me set it up, which we're just sort of starting in that process. But that's going to be like open up so much more of my time eventually, rather than all the automation. When someone makes a donation, I'm on my computer going, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're the chief everything officer. Effectively, you're the founder, but you're the chief everything officer, doing everything and trying to do the
admin, the social media. I'm hoping that I'll grow this year and get people to help me, but it's all it's all on a volunteer basis. So because every penny that's saved goes planting more trees. So
exactly, absolutely, amazing. That sounds great. And is there any other initiatives that you're working on? I know it's only been less than 12 months, but have you thought about anything that you might be looking at doing maybe in 2, 3, 4 years from now with just one tree, or is it too soon, focusing on the immediate short term and worry about that stuff later?
Well, I've actually got a few things
Okay.
up my sleeve. I would, there's one thing that we're hopefully, once it gets signed on the dotted line in hopefully the next 2 weeks, is going to get us even more into the oceans, because believe me, there are trees in the oceans too. But that's, I don't know, it's bizarre, so watch this space. So that's something that I'm really excited about, and I just hope that it all goes, until it's actually signed on the dotted line. We both said yes, but until it's signed, I always feel a bit nervous saying anything. So there's that. We've got more planting plots, like dedicated plots kind of as well, that we're about to announce. And then over the coming years, I think, I'd love to run open up a shop side of it. Just because in terms of, we can plant more trees through selling products, selling t-shirts and things like that. And we've got gift cards for one at the moment, which is quite easy to run from our website. Instead of sending a birthday card or going to the shop and wasting your paper and the plastic that the card comes in, and then the postage. Actually, you know, we plant 2 trees for every card, so have a look.
Amazing.
We can all the wording, you know, if it says happy birthday, we can change it to happy Father's Day.
Yes,
and then
that's a really great idea. Love it. No, I'm looking forward to hearing about your announcement, hopefully in the coming weeks. And yeah, anything more that happens in that space, especially when it relates to the oceans, which I know you love with your scuba diving. Amazing. So I just wanted to move into some quick rapid fire questions, if you don't mind. What is something that people would find that you do strange?
I think when I'm scared, I sing the theme tune to the Littlest Hobo, which is the reason
Okay.
being when you're about to do like a snowboarding jump, and it's a bit of a, you know, I'm a bit scared. This could, so if you sing the Littlest Hobo, or if you're about to, you know, riding your horse and you're going past the train tracks and you always hope the train doesn't come along, but then the high speed train comes along and you don't know how your horse is going to react. Sing the theme tune for the Littlest Hobo. It keeps you calm. It keeps the horse calm. You try and ignore the train goes past, you're okay. So I think, yeah, like in slightly worrying situations, and then a way to calm myself down. And I don't know, it was I don't know whether you guys had it out there, but it was a little TV program from my childhood about this little dog. He was a little
I
hobo.
actually don't remember that.
Oh, it's great.
But whatever works. I think if it works to calm you down, then so be it. Sounds amazing. Yeah, exactly. Now this one, I don't know if you can answer this one because you've done so many TV commercials. Do you have a favorite? And maybe we may or may not be familiar with it, but do you have a favorite TV commercial that you've done?
Yeah, I think it has to be again. I don't know if you have the Shreddies Knitting Nanas over there.
No. Tell us about it.
They're like a little Shreddies are cereal, and they're little squares, and they've got like, they look sort of latticed,
Oh, yes. Yes.
latticed, and the whole sort of like theme of the adverts, it was like a run of adverts, was that actually it's a factory, and nanas, little grannies, are knitting the Shreddies. So we went
Oh,
and we filmed over there. We filmed like the knitting nanas in their factory, and like there was
yes.
like a lead knitting nana that was rallying. We are the knitting nanas. We can get the Shreddies out on time. That was really
Amazing. I'm going to have
and
to
also
Google that.
yeah, and also Christmas because all the snow gets shut down streets and have like snow and stuff. That was really good.
Amazing. It sounds adorable. I'm going to have to Google it and see if I can find it. I'm not familiar with that brand here. Wonderful. So we are getting close to the end of our conversation, which I've really, really very much enjoyed. But I would love to find out more about where people can get some further information. Is the website the best place to go in the first instance?
Yeah, I'd say the website is the first instance. It's got all the information up there. You can always contact me if you've got any questions. Always happy to answer anything. We've also got our Facebook page, which is definitely worth following. Instagram as well is again kind of going to put more sort of into Instagram, but sort of Facebook's probably both of them are the ones to follow in terms of information. But yeah, it's all on the website, and any questions that haven't been covered, always feel free, because I've always, as I said, I've not done this before, so you know, I'm very happy to say, hey Amanda, you should put a section like this on your website, because I don't feel that question's been answered. So that's always anything like that. It's very helpful.
Absolutely. That sounds amazing. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with listeners? A call to action, a thought, a piece of advice, or maybe a question to ponder?
Yeah, I've got two actually. A call to action would be join us, because it is just us all doing it together, and I can't do this without everybody else helping and supporting and donating. I'm sort of just the conduit that's making it happen, but actually it's everybody else out there that's actually coming together and joining together that's making, you know, us be able to plant these trees and making the world a greener place. And the other thing in terms of kind of a thought was something I was thinking about, and I have been thinking about, is that in lots of different industries, it's all about carbon offsetting and to reduce your carbon amounts and offset what you can't. And I sort of feel that I always feel a slight sense of disappointment when I hear that. And I think the reason is that it's not actually about just alleviating the guilt, and offsetting what we've done, because actually we've done a lot of damage over the last decades, and there's a lot of carbon dioxide out in the atmosphere. And to the scientists saying to reach net negative emissions, which is what we need to do to stop us from going above 1.5 to 2 degrees of global warming, is we need to be pulling out more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere than we're putting into it. So it's not about just offsetting your carbon, it's about restoring the planet as well. And I think that's kind of where Just One Tree comes in, because it's so cheap to go above and beyond. It might be, you might put a ton of carbon into the atmosphere, but actually, that might just be a couple of pounds to remove that ton, but it'll only be a couple more pounds to go beyond as well. So I think that's kind of something we need to think about in terms of to try and create a better future for ourselves and our children and our planet moving forwards. It's about turning it into something that's green and colourful.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very well said. I think that makes sense. And like you said, it's so simple. It's £1. I mean, it would cost me more to go out and purchase the equipment necessary to dig a hole and plant a tree myself. So to actually go through an organisation like yourself that's doing amazing things in amazing countries to try to make a change is just, incredible. So you should be really proud. Thank you so much, Amanda, for your time. I hope everyone jumps on board, goes to your website, justonetree.life, and gets involved today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.